way under expectations.
Yeah, yeah,
Again, though, there were the two cop shot that was significant. But
yeah,
let's talk about some looting now, Will.
yeah. No kidding.
Right, so we're not talking about some guy robbing a Target or something like that, but rather this article from Reason by Elizabeth Nolan Brown. Pentagon uses pandemic response cash to pay defense contractors for more war toys. And what she reports is on this Washington Post write up, which is they got, I think, $1 billion in total for the Pentagon that was passed as part of the CARES Act. And it was supposed to go to like prevent and prepare for the coronavirus as well as produce the PPEs, the personal protective equipment and stuff like that. Instead, they just gave it as bailouts to companies like Rolls Royce, and I think this was actually like the mid tier defense contractors that were bailed out.
Yeah,
Because like the big boys got their bailouts just in the regular CARES Act through like different packages, like Boeing got theirs and stuff like that. So, Will, what do you think about this? I mean, they stole so much of our money here. It's unbelievable.
yeah, man. I mean, like just like thinking in terms of like the total like 3 or 4 trillion that they've spent in relation to the coronavirus and these various bills. I guess this billion is kind of a drop in that insane ocean. But still, it's $1 billion. It's still a gigantic pile of money. And like, did the Pentagon use this for their, COVID response and build up all this life-saving medical gear and like they were supposed to? Like, no, of course not. They end up handing a lot of this, most of it, I think, to arms dealers who spent the stuff on stuff completely unrelated to the virus. I think the breakdown, I think they gave like 200 million to, like you mentioned, Rolls Royce and a couple other companies to maintain the shipbuilding industry. They gave 80 million to this firm in Kansas that makes aircraft parts. They gave a couple tens of millions for companies making drones and like space surveillance technology, and another 2 million for the firm that makes the fabric for the U.S. Army dress uniforms. So a lot of the stuff having absolutely nothing to do with the pandemic at all. This is just handing these companies money. And the thing is, too, some of these companies actually double dipped, where they went into the paycheck protection program and they got like cheap or forgivable loans in addition to all this bailout cash. So like they really had a windfall. Those companies who did the double dipping. And the DoD, of course, their argument in all this is that like, oh, we have to support the arms industry and other military related industries like the one that makes the fabric for the uniforms because it's all so important to our national security. But like, first of all, that is not where the money was supposed to go. Like the Pentagon had pledged that they would spend, I think, 3/4 of that money on medical supplies and stuff. But then ultimately they just decided how, they were going to spend it however they wanted to, I guess. Which even at this point, Congress has like grumbled about, kind of surprisingly. They haven't done anything about it, but they have like some, I think, Democrats in the House have like questioned some DoD officials about this. Um, but then the other thing about this too is that like the Pentagon's rationale for all this, for why they had to do it, because I don't think they're really hiding this. I think they're admitting that like, yeah, this is how we spent the money. But they, I think, way overstate the importance of the arms sector and just how how important that is, how we have to support it. We don't really need a lot of this crap that they make. But then even if we assume that they are that important and we really do need to be handing them money, the military still ends up giving them way, way too much money to a lot of these companies. There's so much corruption and graft and stuff that goes into arms procurement and procure really anything the government does where they're spending tax dollars in the private sector. Like I think we're all familiar with where they're spending. The Pentagon spent like $500 for a screwdriver or $1,000 for a coffee maker or whatever. And it's just the incentives. They're totally perverse incentives where they have no interest to actually economize or save money or anything. Their interest is more to like hook up the companies as much as they can and build up these real sweetheart relationships with them. Um, so I just think like the argument that, oh, we have to be giving this much money to these companies and to these arms dealers, that is vastly overstated. That we overpay for so many things. Like I'm saying, the most obvious examples are the $500 screwdrivers and stuff that the Pentagon shells out for. But that applies to everything, for aircraft parts and tanks. Like if there were to be a like market alternative to those things, it would be vastly cheaper than what these arms dealers are charging the government, just because of the incentives, just how that all works. Um, so I just think that that's all really on display here with this throwing around this money. And another thing I think this shows too, what this highlights is just how much like corruption and how little oversight there is with this money, with this spending. Like lawmakers and officials could not possibly track where these trillions and trillions of dollars are going. So like I mean, I'm kind of skeptical of the stimulus payments in general. Like, I don't really think we should be throwing around that much money, of other people's money. But if they're going to do that, I at least prefer it goes to somebody who might need it or something, not just some arms dealer who's just going to cash in on a bailout. But like, I think that is what happened here, and it's probably what's happened with countless billions of the stimulus spending that they've done with all this COVID relief.
Right. Yeah. There's countless personal trainers, waiters, small business owners in the U.S. who actually provide services that the rest of us want and use, not just random parts for expensive weapon system that won't actually defend anybody and mainly just be used as a part of an occupation force somewhere. But giving money to those people at least is a little bit beneficial to the rest of us. I understand that on the net we lose from the massive spending and everything, but at the same time, again, I'm far more interested in having like my local favorite restaurants stay open than whatever silly company apparently needs both a PPE loan and a bailout from the Pentagon in order to keep producing whatever little part they make for the F-35 or whatever ship the U.S. has. So
Shoelaces or whatever they're making. Yeah.
yeah, it's so much corruption, and I guess the part that gets me is just how little other people you care about it. I mean, talk to all these people, especially like Biden supporters, and they'll talk about how much people need money, and you're like, you had $1 billion here that you could have like done something with, anything with to help people, and instead you're just fine with them throwing it all away like they do so often. And again, Boeing's made so much money off of this coronavirus, and it's a failed company. It's a company that has planes that run into the ground based off of poor design. That's what happened with the 737 Maxes. They built a shitty plane and it crashed. Oops.
Right.
And now they get massive loans and bailouts after their company's in the toilet. No, let Boeing go under.
Yeah.
That should definitely happen. And in fact, you could then now maybe just use it as an entrapment scheme or something like that and claim the whole board members are frauds and everything for taking all this money and still giving us crap planes and everything like that. I don't know. Maybe that's the only way you could justify this, but it's just so disappointing that we give away so much of our money at a time where it could be really valuable to people too. It is the thing. Just it should be particularly insulting to Americans that they would steal from us at a time like this. And still, I'm sure there's far more Americans who are outraged at the looting than this. I'm sure even Joe Biden's more outraged at the looting than this, and that's really saying something.
Right. It's
Well,
just business as usual.
yep. All right. Well, we have a word from our sponsor here, and that is Paloma Verde, who makes excellent CBD products. And I know Carlos sent both me and you some great products, and I talked about how I've been enjoying them on last show. So, Will, just curious how you're enjoying your CBD.
Yeah. So I've tried various CBD products over the years. Usually things I'd buy at like a head shop or a gas station or something, and never really did that much for me. But like this stuff from our new sponsor, Paloma Verde, it's a vastly higher quality, and that really does like make the difference when you're taking CBD compared, as you might imagine, compared to something you might be buying at the gas station or something. But in my own case, I have pretty bad issues with insomnia and falling asleep. I have trouble winding down at night. And they've got these great melatonin soft gels that have CBD and melatonin in them that have been helping a lot with that lately. And it's not just for nighttime. You can, take CBD throughout the day as well. At Paloma Verde, they have all kinds of things for different circumstances. They got fruit gummies you can eat. They have liquid extracts. They have salves and creams that you can massage into like, sore joints and stuff and for inflammation. And they have all kinds of these soft gels. Like I said, with the one with the melatonin, they have one with curcumin. They have a everyday formula. They have a lot of different options for a lot of different circumstances. And you can find all that stuff at Paloma Verde Store. That's PALOMAVERDE store.com. And if you want to get 25% off your order, if you spend more than $75, use promo code PEACE, PEACE, like the thing that we want to see.
That's right. And there are links on the show notes page at the Libertarian Institute and on the YouTube channel.